So today we're talking about what to say when calling donors. And this is something I know many people struggle with. What do you do when you get on the phone? I used to have a similar problem. I'd get on the phone. I like talking to people and I could have a conversation, but it wouldn't go to where I wanted it to go when I wanted to make that ask or get them to get involved in a certain way. So that's what we're going to talk about today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Olivieri. I'm a #1 international best-selling author, former executive director, and creator of the Impact Method. And I love helping nonprofits change the way they operate so they can make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed or burning out. So today I'm going to give you a quick framework for how to conduct one of these calls. So the first thing I wanted to give you, and there's a lot of text today, and that's just so that you can take notes, you can watch the replay, you're going to get a recording of this, so if you're watching the replay, you can pause and take notes so you can create your own version of these. But I wanted you to have some exact wording because I know that always helps me when I have the exact words. It's easy for me to write for other people, but whenever I have to write for myself, it's 10 times harder at least. So you can send an email like this to get the call scheduled, right? Before we're even on the call. I hope all is well. I wanted to check in with you to get your, notice your perspective as a supporter of our organization. This is assuming they're already a supporter in some way. Would you be up for having a quick call with me? This could be Zoom call, audio call only, either way, doesn't really matter in this case. I prefer Zoom calls because I like to see people face to face. I've been using Zoom for years and years, and I just think on a spectrum of Zoom call and phone call and then in-person experience, the Zoom call is way closer to an in-person experience than a phone call. Than it is to a phone call. So here's a link to my schedule. If you're not already using a scheduler tool like Calendly or Book Like a Boss or Book Me or You Can Book Me, there's many, many of them. I highly recommend you do that because it's really going to help you save a lot of time. But then I also offer if you want to find a quick time that works for you, or feel free to send me a few times that work for you and I'll try to accommodate your schedule. Simple, short email, sincerely, Sarah, or whoever you are. So let's get to the call, exactly what to do. So it's a 3-part call. And instead of having a script you need to memorize, I want you to remember that there are 3 parts and each part has a set of questions. Short questions, you're going to get the gist. You can modify them if you need, but you're going to remember 3 types of questions you're going to ask. The first part of the call is all about understanding where they are now. It's all about understanding them and where they are now. The second part of the call is their island of fulfillment. Where is the bright future that they envision for you? And the third part of the call is the roadmap, where you're going to help lay out for the donor or potential donor the journey to go from where they are today and where you are today to their island of fulfillment, and how that you and they can take the journey together. So let's go into exactly what to say, because you know, if I've got the answer, I love to just give it to you. I'm not going to make you guess. So here's the first set of questions. It's all about finding out where they are. Start with some normal, how are you doing? What's new? Whatever's natural for you to ask about somebody personally. Then thank them for being on the call, and you can use a line like this. I wanted to ask you a few questions about your perspective on our organization. Is that still okay? Now, this might seem redundant because of course it's okay, but it's nice to get a little buy-in before you proceed. Maybe it's a bad time, maybe something just happened, and you want to know that before you barge on into the rest of your questions, and make sure you're getting buy-in from them so they're really engaged. So here's the first main question after you've kind of warmed up with how they're doing and confirming that it's still an okay time to talk. To start, can you tell me how you feel about our recent work, or you could say initiatives, depending on what the nature of your organization is? What has stood out for you in either a good or a bad way? And in your opinion, what's the most important thing about the work that we do at our organization, right? So I'm asking them how they feel. These are feeling questions. How do they feel about it? What stands out, good and bad? If you want to reassure them that you're open to negative input, that's okay. Constructive criticism is totally welcome. And you can ask these two questions together, or you can ask one and then the other. In your opinion, what's the most important thing about the work we do? And apart from using this information later in the call, this information is totally something you should take notes on, because this is going to be really valuable for generating future communications with donors, and in particular this donor. So that's part one. Understand where they are. Does that make sense? Give me a yes with a hashtag replay in the comments if you're on YouTube watching this, or a yes in the chat. Is this finding out where they are making sense to you? Yep. Okay. Pretty simple. It's not rocket science here. Step two, we want to find out where or what their island of fulfillment looks like. This is the happy future. It may not be happy in the case of all nonprofits, but they're out to fulfill the same mission you are at the end of the day. It's just that you're using your programs and services to do this, and they're using their money to make this happen. But you guys are on the same team trying to fulfill the same mission. So ask them a question like this. Now, I've chosen 3 years in the future for my question, which I think makes it nice and tangible. But you could push it out or bring it into a year or 5 years if there's something relevant to that time frame. Otherwise, just stick with 3 years if you have no other reason to change it. So you ask them, so great. So if everything went really well over the next 3 years, and you can fill in here if you want, let's say the coronavirus is over or whatever it is, if everything went really well over the next 3 years, where would you like to see our work go? What kind of impact would you like to see us making? And what would it look like to you? Again, you can ask all 3 questions up front, or you can break them down, or you can ask them all up front and then check off if they haven't answered one of them, repeat the question to them. While they tell you what this future you of your organization looks like, ask clarifying questions to make sure you have a really clear picture of that island of fulfillment. What does it look like? Is there a new building? Have you expanded? Are there smiling children? Try to paint a visual picture, not just a conceptual picture of how many people have been served or we've solved this problem, but try to make it really tangible. And when you think you've really got some good details out, wrap this section up by summarizing what their island of fulfillment looks like to them and asking them, did I get it? So you can say, it sounds to me like you'd like to see blah, 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 X, Y, Z. Did I get that right? And then you'll be set up for part 3. But before I move on, does this give me a yes if this makes sense to you? If they don't know what you've been up to in part 1, then you have the opportunity to fill them in. But definitely take note that it is not good if your donors do not know what you've been up to, and you should make plans to keep your donors better informed. But it's perfectly okay if they don't know what you've been up to, you can fill them in. And then when you get here, they certainly should have some sort of imagination of the future. Now, while you are asking these questions for part 2, think about the words they're using to describe their island of fulfillment, because you're going to use them in the 3rd part of the call, where you're going to draw the map. So first, it's really nice to compliment their island, right? And what I mean by this is, say, wow, like I love the way you described that, or I never thought of that, or that sounds really great. And share with them that you've envisioned going to the same kind of future, the same kind of island. It doesn't have to be the same vision, and it might not be the same place, but if you can use some of their words to describe the vision that the team at your organization have actually envisioned for the future, that would be really, really helpful, because they'll hear you with their own words the best. And then you're going to lay out the 3 main steps to getting to that future together. So now you've merged their island of fulfillment, with your island of fulfillment, and basically said, see, we're really going to the same place. And just explain, you don't have to say this is our island and how it's your island. You're going to say, just use their island, say, actually, that's basically where we're trying to go. And here's our plan for getting there. Now, way beyond the scope of this training, but you should be able to take your big vision and break it down into 3 basic steps. If you're using the impact method already, you are probably going to have this right in your impact strategy as your big key goal stemming off your mission. So you might have, first we're recording this, it's coronavirus, right? So first, we need to raise a certain amount of money just to ensure we survive the next 12 months because everything has been shut off. Then we need to test these new programs that we want to pilot and see if they get the kind of results that we're hoping. And then assuming that we get the results that we think we're going to get, we want to scale that program across a certain number of territories. So that's an example of the kind of 3-step journey you might share with the supporter. And then you're all set up to make the ask. You already laid out the journey that takes them to where they want to go. And all you need to do is now ask them if they will go on this journey with you. So first, check to make sure the plan makes sense. Just simple as saying, hey, does this make sense to you? And if something doesn't make sense, take the moment to clarify that. Make sure the plan makes sense to them, and listen carefully if something doesn't make sense to them. You either need to improve the way you're describing it, or maybe they've discovered a flaw in your plan. Either way, it's okay. Ask them to take the journey with you by investing in the plan. And here I'm very intentionally, I like to use the word investing, right? They're going to invest in the plan to get the outcome that they want. They're not really giving to you, because it's not like they're not getting anything in return. They're getting the future island of fulfillment, which they desperately want to go to. And it's not like they're just supporting you. They're really supporting their own vision at the same time as they're supporting you. So that's why I like to use the word investing. And then when they say yes, and not everybody will say yes, but if they say yes, when they say yes, try to collect the donation right on the call if you can. You can just say, that's fantastic. How much are you able to help today? Pull it up, say, I can take your information right now. And that is potentially the end of your call, but I have a bonus step for you, because everybody loves a bonus, this is how I recommend you end the call. I suggest that you end the call by asking if you can put 15 minutes on the calendar now to check in a few months on how it's going. So this is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to maintain that relationship and give you an opportunity to give the donor an update, build the relationship. They're going to feel special that you want to talk to them again. And 2, that first step where we had to send them an email and get them to schedule, we won't have to worry about that because we'll always be planning to talk to our donors again. So this can be in 3 months, in 6 months, whatever makes sense, but get it locked in the calendar now before you end the call. So that's your bonus step. And that is the end of this training on a simple framework for how to ask your supporters for a donation on a call. If you'd like to have a call with me to talk one-on-one about your organization's needs, you can go to pivotground.com/apply. Now, I'm going to stop the recording and I am ready to take questions.